Chapter 5441. Go Weiba has rendered meritorious service. Qidong gritted his teeth and said, although the Jade Talisman seal was destroyed by Deputy General Sima of the Iron Blood Alliance, it was single-handedly promoted by Yun Chujio. It's really detestable. Qidong briefly explained what had happened before, and the purple-masked men immediately started cursing. As for the target of their curses, it was naturally Hei Shinjio. Alright, I still have other matters to attend to. All of you stay here well. Qidong gave a few more instructions before leaving. The purple-masked men cursed and swore again, but no one came over to check the formation plate. Goei Batsao did not act rashly. It was only a spirit energy clone, and it only had one chance. It had to hit the target with one strike. Therefore, they had to wait for a suitable opportunity. As time went by, the purple-masked man yawned one after another. They were certain that no one would discover this place, so they only left one person on night duty while the others fell asleep. The person on night duty quickly fell asleep. Goei Batsao was immediately delighted. This was his chance. The disc array was very sturdy. It was easy to stop it, but if he wanted to destroy it, he had to think of a way. Goei Batsao had already figured out a way by using the day's time, and that was to commit suicide. Cough, cough. It sounded a little tragic, but in fact, it was to release all of its spirit energy in an instant and apply it to the groove of the spirit stone. In this way, the formation leaves in the formation disc would self-destruct due to the surge of spirit energy. Goei Batsao felt that he was simply too smart. He had too much spirit of sacrifice. This fellow did as he was told and immediately, tragically committed suicide. The light on the formation disc suddenly shone brightly, and then with a loud bang, it exploded into countless pieces. The purple-masked men were awakened by the loud bang, and some were even injured by the fragments of the formation disc, instantly causing chaos. They did not even know what had happened. How did the formation plate suddenly explode? Could it be that the quality was not good? When Qidong received the news, he could not believe his ears. When he went to take a look during the day, it was still fine. Why did it suddenly explode? Those purple-masked men were afraid of taking responsibility. Naturally, they would not say that they were asleep. Moreover, they were certain that no outsiders had entered the cave, so the formation plate must have exploded on its own. Qidong personally went to the scene to check, but he did not find anything unusual. This matter had become an unsolved case, so he could only let it go. After Goei Batsao bravely sacrificed itself, it proudly claimed credit from Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio saw it proudly shaking its leaves and knew that it had succeeded. Taking advantage of the fact that others were not paying attention, she swallowed a handful of pills and fed it to Guai Chao. Then she praised, "Go Weiba, you've done well. You've done well this time." Guai Chao happily ate the pills with the leaves of the Guai Chao. It felt that it was about to reach the peak of Chao Sheng. After feeding the Guai Chao, Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and pondered over the matter this time. Although she and Goei Batsao had already destroyed the conspiracy of the Divine Devil Hall, she didn't know what exactly the conspiracy was. Moreover, it involved people from the Divine Enlightenment continent, so it was even more confusing. She was certain that the Divine Devil Hall's goal was to kill Di Baiming and nothing else, but now, she wasn't so sure. It was certain that the Divine Devil Hall wanted to kill Di Baiming, but it didn't seem to be that simple. It was getting more and more complicated. Could it be related to the so-called Divine Devil race? Yun Chujio took out Di Baiming's voice transmission talisman and wanted to tell him about the Ascension talisman, but she couldn't send it successfully, so she had to give up. Chapter 5442 had another Ascendant talisman. Yun Chujio put the voice transmission talisman back into her storage ring and took out the Ascendant talisman to take a look. This thing had to be activated within a month. Even if she couldn't contact the Gigolo, she had to go to the Divine Enlightenment continent. Moreover, she felt that Di Baiming, Shui Wuji, and the others should have already entered the Divine Enlightenment continent. Otherwise, the voice transmission talisman wouldn't have failed so often. Moreover, based on their strength, they should be able to ascend to the Divine Enlightenment continent. In fact, according to Yun Chujio's original plan, she didn't want to enter the Divine Enlightenment continent now. Firstly, she was still too weak, and secondly, the situation of the Great Firmament Continent wasn't very clear yet. Fortunately, the Zen sect and the Bitter Zen sect had already formed an alliance. As long as Xian Hui didn't act rashly, she could contend with the Divine Devil Hall. As for the Qi family, Zhuang family, and Mu family, they were just fence-sitters. They did not dare to act rashly. In the short term, there would not be any changes in the Chongshao continent. After the Lan family's flying spirit tool arrived at the imperial city, Yun Chujio was called to the ancestral residence by the Lan family's patriarch. Yun Chujio saw that the Lan family's patriarch's expression was quite serious, and she was puzzled. What did this old fox want to say to her? Was it about ascension? Little Gio, I didn't expect you to really have the qualifications to ascend. In fact, even if you don't have the qualifications to ascend, I will still let you go to the Divine Enlightenment Continent, said the Lan family's patriarch. Yun Chujio was stunned. Why did he say that he had a way to let her enter the Divine Enlightenment Continent? This old fox still had this kind of ability? The patriarch seemed to have noticed Yun Chujio's doubt. With a move of his spiritual sense, an ascendant talisman appeared in his hand. Yun Chujio's eyes immediately widened. She moved closer to take a look. Although there were slight differences between the patterns on the ascendant talisman and hers, it seemed to be a real ascendant talisman. Your ascendant talisman must be activated within a month, but mine has no time limit. It can be activated at any time. The eyes of the patriarch of the Lan family had a hint of pride, but it quickly turned into disappointment. Yun Chujio was a little confused. Since this old fox had the ascension talisman, why didn't he ascend himself? Just as Yun Chujio was a little confused, the Lan family's ancestor asked, "Do you know why Da Mao brought you back?" Yun Chujio's eyes flashed, but she still decided to tell the truth. Great uncle brought me back mostly because of my grandmother's jade token. The Lan family's patriarch nodded and didn't ask about the whereabouts of the jade token. Instead, he sighed. It was because of that jade token that all of Da Mao's parents died. Yun Chujio was even more dumbfounded. That jade token was so important? Since it was so important, why did it fall into her grandmother's hands? After all, her grandmother was only a concubine daughter of the third wife. The Lan family's ancestor didn't seem to have any intention of explaining. He changed the topic and said, "Now you have two choices. One is the Ascension Talisman of the Divine Devil Hall, and the other is the Ascension Talisman in my hand. I don't need to say it. I think you also know that although the Ascension Talisman in your hand is real, the Divine Devil Hall probably did something to it. If you use it to ascend, there will definitely be a lot of trouble. The Ascending Talisman in my hand doesn't have that kind of trouble. However, if you want to take it away, you must help me do one thing." Yun Chujio sighed in her heart. Although there was some vague kinship between her and the old fox, they still used each other more. What did he want her to do? Chapter 5444, Past Events. What does the old ancestor want me to do? Yun Chujio asked with a faint smile. The old ancestor of the Lan family slowly spat out two words, revenge. Who is the enemy? Yun Chujio did not ask what the hatred was because it was obvious that it was the hatred of Lan Dimeo's father's generation. I don't know. Yun Chujio, the Lan family's ancestor, let out a long sigh and said, "At that time, there was a strange phenomenon in the Lianxing mountain range. Qingze and his brothers rushed over together out of curiosity, but they did not return for a long time. I was worried, so I brought people to search." The Lan family's ancestor seemed to be unable to continue speaking when he said this. The Qingze he mentioned was Lan Dimeo's father, Lan Qingze. The ancestor of the Lan family closed his eyes and paused for a moment before saying, "I brought people to search for a few days. Other than finding some relics left behind by Chengze's two older brothers, we didn't find anything else." Just as he was about to give up, he found the heavily injured Qingze in an extremely hidden crack. His tongue had been cut off, his eyes had been pierced blind, his tendons and veins had been severed, and he had gone mad. The Lan family's ancestor clenched his hands tightly and continued, "The crack was very deep, and Chengze was in that state back then. The murderer must have thought that he was dead for sure, so he didn't go down to the crack to kill him. It was also because Qing Zhe didn't deserve to die. There was a small amount of spring water seeping out of the crack, and he relied on the spring water to survive until I rushed over. After I brought him back, I invited many famous doctors back. Although I reconnected his meridians, his hands and feet were still not very flexible. Moreover, he was still crazy. Most importantly, his body was already severely depleted. Even if I used the best spirit medicine to nourish him, he wouldn't have much time left. The Blue family's old ancestor's eyes were already red. His voice was also somewhat hoarse, but he still continued to say, "Qingze loves your grandmother very much. Even though he's crazy, he still likes to have his little daughter accompany him. One time, when I went to see him, I saw your grandmother playing with a jade token in her hand. She wanted to take it over to have a look, but Qingze's reaction was very intense, so I had no choice but to give up. When Qingze died, he seemed to have regained some clarity. Although he couldn't speak, he still spent a lot of effort to write down some things on paper and pen. The old ancestor took out a piece of paper. Yun Chujio took it and looked at it. The handwriting on it was messy and crooked. Some of the words were even difficult to recognize. Yun Chujio thought that it was normal. Lan Qingze was blind and his hands didn't listen to his commands. His mind wasn't very clear, so it was already good enough that he could write these words. Yun Chujio could barely recognize some of the messy handwriting. Among them, there were words like Divine Enlightenment Continent, Jade Token, and Destroyed. No wonder the old fox said that Lan Qingze and the others had lost their lives because of the Jade Token. After Qingze died, I didn't find the Jade Token. Your grandmother was only 4 years old at that time, and she didn't know the whereabouts of the Jade Token. I sent people to search the entire third room but couldn't find the Jade Token, so I had to give up. I guessed that Qingze must have destroyed the Jade Token. At that time, the Qi, Zhuang, and Mu families took the opportunity to encroach on our power. They were in a terrible state, so this matter was temporarily put aside. The Lan family's ancestor recalled the past. His usually cold and hard face was filled with grief. He closed his eyes and a row of muddy tears flowed down. He was not born cold-blooded and heartless. It was the pain of losing his son that forced him to become even colder. Otherwise, he would not have been able to hold the Lan family up until now. Chapter 54-45. Lan Luchen's background. Yun Chujio looked at the Lan family's patriarch, whose body was slightly trembling, and comforted him. "Patriarch, you have to look forward to everything. Don't be too sad." After a long while, the Lan family's patriarch calmed down and said, "Although I wanted to find the murderer of my son, the Lan family was pressed by the Qi family and the other two families. The situation was critical. For several years, I was exhausted and didn't have the energy to investigate this matter. After the situation stabilized, I started to investigate the matter. However, no one else knew about the matter, and there were very few clues. I had no choice but to form an alliance with the Divine Demon Hall. Firstly, I can gain a firm foothold, and secondly, I can take the opportunity to investigate some things in the Divine Enlightenment Continent." Yun Chujio saw that the ancestor of the Lan family's voice was becoming more hoarse, so she stood up and handed him a cup of tea. "Ancestor, there's no rush. Please have a sip of tea and take a rest." The Lan family's patriarch sighed, took the cup of tea and took a few sips. Then, he continued, "The people of the Divine Demon Hall are quite tight-lipped. I used a lot of effort to find some clues. According to what they said, when Qingze and the others were in trouble, there were indeed many people from the Divine Enlightenment Continent who came to the Liansheng mountain range. As for why they came, they didn't mention it. Therefore, the murderer of Qingze and the others must be someone from the Divine Enlightenment Continent. You are naturally intelligent and have a sharp mind. As long as you start from that incident, you will definitely be able to find the murderer." Yun Chujio nodded. If she had gained a firm foothold in the Divine Enlightenment Continent, it would not be too difficult to find out what had happened back then. However, she still had many questions, such as the Ascendant Talisman. "Ancestor, where did you get the Ascension Amulet?" The eyes of the Lan family's ancestor flickered. Although it was very subtle, it was still caught by Yun Chujio. This fellow pondered in his heart. There seemed to be something fishy going on here. The Lan family's ancestor seemed to hesitate for a moment before saying, "Actually, I have 2 ascension amulets in my hand. One of them has already been given to Luo Qin. And the reason why I was able to obtain 2 ascendant talismans and a passage jade token was also because of Luo Qin." Yun Chujio was even more dumbfounded now. Fortunately, the Lan family's ancestor explained, "Ever since you arrived at the Lan family, you haven't heard of Luchin's parents, right? Don't you think it's a little strange?" Yun Chujio thought about it, and it was true. She had never heard of Lan Luchin's parents, nor had anyone mentioned why Lan Luochen had arrived at the Tianyuan continent back then. The Lan family's ancestor laughed bitterly. "It's funny. I don't even know who Lan Luchin's mother is. Back then, his father only brought him back. No matter how much I interrogated him, he didn't tell me who the child's mother was. Later on, his father took him away from the Lan family. I was very angry at that time, so I didn't ask anyone to look for him. When I wanted to look for him, he was nowhere to be found. Until a few years ago, a mysterious person came to see me and said that he was from his maternal grandfather's family. He asked me to go to the Tianyuan continent to bring Luo Qin back and groom him. He even gave me 2 ascendant talismans and 2 passage jade tokens. One of them was used as a reward, and the other one was kept for Luo Qin." Yun Chujio didn't expect Lan Luo Qin to have such a background. He was really pitiful. However, pitiful people must have their detestable aspects. It was better not to have any interactions in the future. Therefore, she did not want to use the old fox's ascension talisman. She did not want to have any interactions with Landregs. Chapter 5446 Ascending Amulet also had a level the Lan family's ancestor's eyes flashed. He had obviously guessed Yun Chujio's thoughts. He said, "You don't have to worry because the ascending amulet and Luo Qin have a connection, because the 2 ascending amulets are different. You might not know this, but the ascending amulet also has a level. The one I gave you and the one the Divine Devil Hall gave you are both the lowest grade ascending amulets, while the one Luo Qin has is much higher grade than yours." Yun Chujio. What the hell? There are different levels to the ascendant talisman. Would a low-level ascendant talisman die halfway through flight? Yun Chujio explained her question, and the Lan family's ancestor couldn't help but laugh at her. It actually lightened his previous sadness a little. To be honest, he really didn't want to let this little girl leave, but even if he didn't let her help him take revenge, she would sooner or later soar into the sky, and he wouldn't be able to keep her. "I'm not too sure, but I've heard some things from the people of the Godly Demon Palace. The difference of the Ascender Talisman is that the place you go to after activating the Ascender Talisman is different. After the lowest level Ascender Talisman like you arrives at the Divine Enlightenment Continent, you should enter a place similar to a test. If you pass, your identity in the Divine Enlightenment Continent will be officially confirmed, and if you fail, you will be punished. The Ascender Talisman in Luo Chen's hand will be directly sent to the Alliance of 10,000 Cities on the Divine Enlightenment Continent, and you will be officially recognized on the Divine Enlightenment Continent." The Lan family's ancestor was also a bit uncertain. After all, he had never been to the Divine Enlightenment Continent, so he had only heard about it. Yun Chujio, did he have to treat her so differently? She felt that something was wrong. Other people must have reached the peak of the 9th level of spirit destruction to ascend, but she was only at the peak of the 6th level of spirit destruction. There was a high chance that she would not pass the assessment, so wouldn't she be punished? She thought for a moment. Anyway, there was no time limit for the Ascension Talisman in the old fox's hand. She would wait until she reached the 9th level of Spirit Extinguisher, or at the very least, the 8th level of Spirit Extinguisher before ascending. The ancestor of the Lan family was very shrewd. He immediately guessed her thoughts and said, "If you don't ascend within a month, the Divine Devil Hall will definitely sense it, and they might take the opportunity to make another scheme. If you delay, things will change. Why don't you use the ascending talisman I gave you instead of Li Zombie? You might be able to successfully cheat your way through." Yun Chujio said in confusion, "Old ancestor, everyone in the Divine Devil Hall knows me. Even if I use your ascending talisman to the so-called assessment place, won't I still be tricked? You don't know that. I heard from the Divine Devil Hall that the assessment place is filled with people from the Myriad City Alliance. The Divine Devil Hall doesn't dare to interfere rashly. Therefore, I feel that the Divine Devil Hall can only bribe 1 or 2 people to target you at most. Moreover, in order to prevent fraud for personal gain, the assessment area only has a number for all those who ascend, and the number is generated based on the Ascendance Talisman. Don't you have a pill that can change your appearance? At that time, you only need to change your appearance. Once the assessment is over, you will be able to restore your appearance. Yun Chujio snorted coldly in her heart. This old fox must have planned it out long ago. Otherwise, he wouldn't have even thought of changing his appearance. However, what he said seemed to make sense. If it was too late, things would change. It was better to ascend as soon as possible. Yun Chujio calculated the days. In 2 days, Mount Meru would be struck by lightning. If she could be struck by lightning, perhaps her cultivation base would rise. Thinking of this, she said, "Ancestor, I promise you, after I ascend to the Divine Enlightenment continent, I will find the murderer." Chapter 5447. The Masked Elder. The ancestor of the Lan family didn't look too surprised. Apparently, he had expected Yun Chujio to agree. He nodded. That's good. Luo Chen's ancestor's family should be quite powerful. That mysterious person gave me a jade talisman besides the Ascendance Talisman. If you encounter danger in the Divine Enlightenment continent, someone will come to rescue you after you activate this jade talisman. Take it with you. Yun Chujio didn't want to have anything to do with Lan Luochen, so she didn't take the jade talisman seal. She said, "Forefather, you should keep this jade talisman seal. I don't need it." Seeing her determined attitude, the Lan family's forefather had to give up. He looked at the paper with messy handwriting on the table and thought of something. He frowned and said, "Oh right, when we found Qingze, the blood he spat out contained a lethal poison. It was very corrosive. According to the famous doctor later, if it wasn't for the spring water that Qingze used to prolong his life accidentally diluted a part of the poison, Qingze would have died a long time ago. Unfortunately, later, I sent people to get some of the spring water, but the crack no longer exists." At this point, the ancestor of the Lan family. He took out a piece of paper. This is some of the ingredients that the famous doctor analyzed from it. Although there are many people who know how to use poison, it is still a clue. You should also be careful so that you don't fall for it. The Guai Chao in Yun Chujio's dantian shook its leaves. As long as it was there any poison in this world that could kill the smelly girl? It didn't exist at all. Yun Chujio ignored the arrogant Goei Batsao and took the piece of paper. Then she nodded to show that she understood. Yun Chujio remembered Hong Ling, Leng Yun, and the others. She proposed a few conditions, and the ancestor of the Lan family agreed without any hesitation. The two of them chatted for a while more, and Yun Chujio got up to leave. After Yun Chujio left, the old man wearing a mask walked out of the secret room. "Master, why don't you ask Yun Chujio if she knows the whereabouts of the jade plate?" "So what if I do? Even if she has it, do you think she will tell me? Besides, I'm not interested in the jade plate. I just want to find the murderer." The Lan family's patriarch said with some disappointment. The masked elder comforted him. "Yun Chujio is smart and smart. She will definitely find the murderer and help you take revenge." After a long time, the Lan family's ancestor said, "I hope so." He didn't know whether it was right or wrong to do this. Although the little girl would go to the Divine Enlightenment continent sooner or later without his help, he still felt a little disappointed and guilty. The masked old man seemed to have read the mind of the Lan family's patriarch. He pondered for a moment and said, "Master, Yun Chujio's fiancée is the sworn enemy of the Divine Devil Hall. She is destined to go through storms. Even without your help, she will go to the Divine Enlightenment continent sooner or later." The Lan family's patriarch nodded and said tiredly, "Now that the Zen sect and the Bitter Zen sect have formed an alliance, they will be in a state of balance for a short time. There won't be any big waves. You can go into seclusion and cultivate for the time being." The masked old man nodded and bowed in agreement. Then he entered the secret chamber and left. The patriarch of the Lan family sighed slightly when he saw the door of the secret chamber slowly closing. The reason why the masked old man had been wearing the mask was that he had spat out a mouthful of poisonous blood when he saved Lan Qingze. The poisonous blood had sprayed onto the masked old man's face. Although it didn't hurt his eyes, it had corroded his face and made it so deep that his bones could be seen. Even though he was treated and grew back his skin and flesh, he was still very ferocious. The masked old man had been wearing a mask ever since. The book review section has Little 9 and a certain senior's Q version. Everyone can go take a look and ask for a monthly pass. Mamwa. Chapter 54-48 Ascension. Yun Chujio did not return to the Lan family's third house after leaving the ancestral residence. Instead, she went to the courtyard where Leng Yun's guards were. Leng Yun and the others also went to the Great Firmament Feast. Naturally, they knew that Yun Chujio had obtained the Ascension Talisman. Their hearts were very complicated. On one hand, they were naturally happy for their master, but on the other hand, they were worried about their future. Once Yun Chujio left, they would be leaderless. They would probably be sent back to the Lan family camp. Even if they used their heels to think, they would be ostracized when they went back, let alone rise up. Some of them were slightly regretful. If they knew this would happen, they would have stayed in the Lan family camp. After Yun Chujio saw everyone, she went straight to the point. Everyone, I didn't expect that I would rise up so quickly. But you are my people, so I will naturally not mistreat you. I was afraid that you would be ostracized if you returned to the Lan family's camp, so I discussed with my ancestor. In the future, when you return to Elder Tua's command, he will train you to become the elites of the Lan family's guards. In addition, your salaries and resources will be the same as before. There won't be any changes. Of course, if anyone wants to return to the Lan family's camp, that's fine too. I will ask Elder Tua to warn Zhuchen. He won't dare to act rashly. You guys decide what to do. Leng Yun and the others were ecstatic. Was there a need to decide? Even a fool would know to choose the first option. Following old Tua, they would definitely be stronger than those people from the Lan family's camp. After Yun Chujio arranged for Leng Yun and the others, she returned to the Lan family's third branch. Hong Ling and the others had also heard about Yun Chujio's ascension. They were happy but also a little sad. Especially Hong Ling. Even though she had used makeup to cover her eyes, it was still visible that her eyes were a little red and swollen. Yun Chujio called the three of them to her. I have already made an agreement with the old ancestor. After I leave, you will go to the ancestral residence to work. Housekeeper Su will not mistreat you. After Yun Chujio had made the arrangements, she also gave them a lot of spirit stones and pills. The three of them were naturally grateful. When Yun Chujio and Hong Ling were alone in the house, Yun Chujio gave Hong Ling a lot of good things. Miss, this servant can't bear to part with you. Hong Ling couldn't help but cry. Yun Chujio was also a little sad, but there was nothing she could do. She was not strong enough now. Even if she wanted to take Hong Ling with her, she was powerless. She thought of Leng Yun's stuttering pleas in the afternoon and smiled. Hong Ling, what do you think of Leng Yun? Hong Ling was stunned. She did not know why Yun Chujio asked this question. She casually said, not only is Chief Leng's cultivation level very high, but he is also very kind. He has helped me a few times. Miss, why are you suddenly asking about this? Yun Chujio said a little mischievously, because he has taken a fancy to you. This afternoon, he specially begged me to agree to marry you to him. Hong Ling's face suddenly turned red. No wonder she met Leng Yun every time she went out to work for Miss. It turned out that he actually. Yun Chujio saw that Hong Ling was in a daze and immediately knew that this marriage was most likely successful. Marriage is not a child's play. You definitely need time to think about it. But don't worry, I will tell Housekeeper Su. If you are willing, he will help you take care of everything. Hong Ling replied with a red face. She thought about how Yun Chujio was about to leave, but she became sad again. Miss, when do you plan to ascend? It depends on when the thunder is on Mount Meru, Yun Chujio said slowly. Chapter 5449. Ascending to Heaven. Hong Ling knew that her young miss liked to run to Mount Meru when there was thunder, so she was not surprised. She was busy preparing the things that Yun Chujio needed to bring for her ascension. Hong Ling knew that her young miss was a foodie, so most of the things she prepared were food. Yun Chujio was also happy to be free. She just waited and waited. Seeing that the 1-month deadline was up and Mount Meru did not have any intention to send down heavenly thunder, she had no choice but to give up. These few days, she had already bid farewell to Sect Master Wu, Sect Master Xian Hui, Qing Si, and the others with voice transmission talismans, so she did not have anything else to do. It was just that she had not been able to contact Di Baiming, Xue Wuji, and the others, which made her somewhat depressed. Early in the morning, under the watchful eyes of the Lan family members, Yun Chujio activated the Ascension Talisman in her hand. After the Ascension Talisman in Yun Chujio's hand was activated, the sound of celestial music immediately sounded. Everyone could even see that there were illusory flowers blooming around Yun Chujio, and then Yun Chujio's figure disappeared in front of them. Everyone was naturally envious of this, but many people could not help but feel a little disappointed. Little Jiao had left just like that? They really could not bear to part with her. On the other side, Hei Xinjia's eyes were filled with a blinding white light. She had no choice but to close her eyes and swallow the appearance-changing pill that she had hidden in her hand. She could feel the whistling of the wind around her. She pondered in her heart. This Ascension Talisman was rather interesting. It was almost similar to a teleportation array. This fellow's heart skipped a beat. In the future, she could modify the Ascending Talisman to teleport. Wouldn't it be a sharp weapon for escaping? If she succeeded in developing it, she would be able to see the pretty boy in a flash if she wanted to. It was simply wonderful. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She no longer felt that this long ascending process was boring. After a full 2 days, the sound of the wind by her ears began to weaken. Yun Chujio knew that she should be landing soon. In order to be safe, this fellow activated the spiritual energy shield and even activated the defensive spiritual artifact that he had collected from the Lan family's ancestors, Master Wu and the others. It was better to be safe than sorry. This fellow had always kept this in mind. A moment later, Yun Chujio was violently thrown out. The huge impact force and extremely fast speed made it impossible for people to react in time. Fortunately, this fellow was already prepared. Although he fell to the ground because he was prepared, he did not fall in pain. TSK, this pig is really smart. She actually prepared in advance, which made us lose a lot of fun. Her cultivation level is too low, isn't it? How did she ascend? I guess she used the back door again. I've seen this kind of thing many times. She's so stupid. Even if she used the back door to get the Ascension Talisman, she would not be able to get away with it in our heavenly dock. In the end, she still ended up in such a miserable state. I really don't know what she's after. Yun Chujio listened to the conversation of these people very clearly. She suddenly had a bad premonition in her heart. From the conversation of these people, she could obtain a few pieces of information. Firstly, the attitude of the people in the heavenly dock towards these people who had just ascended was extremely bad. Otherwise, they wouldn't have called them pigs. Secondly, the test in the heavenly dock must be very strict. What made this guy uncertain the most was the miserable end that the person said. Could it be that if he didn't pass the assessment, he would be severely punished? While Yun Chujio was pondering in her heart, she heard someone say impatiently, "What are you still lying there for? Hurry up and register." Yun Chujio silently recited Xiao Jiao's 10 years of revenge. Only then did she get up and look around with fear and trepidation. Chapter 5450. The scene that Yun Chujio saw was completely different from what she had expected. She thought that the so-called sky-reaching dock must be a fairyland where birds chirped and flowers were fragrant. She did not expect to see an ordinary small square. In front of the square was a pitch-black door with the words "Sky-reaching dock" written on the plaque. There were a few people sitting or standing in front of her, and there was a long table in front of the 2 people who were sitting. It should be the registration place. Yun Chujio walked to the table and took out the Ascendant Talisman and the Passage Jade token that had no lines on it. She respectfully handed them to a guard. The guard looked at the serial number on the back of the Ascendant Talisman, pursed his lips, and then looked at Yun Chujio. He said, "Where's the binding talisman?" Yun Chujio was at a loss. Binding talisman? There was still money to be paid here? The guard saw Yun Chujio's stunned look and said impatiently, "Are you deaf or mute? I'm asking you, where's the binding talisman?" Yun Chujio suppressed the anger in her heart and asked timidly, "May I ask what the binding talisman means?" The guard rolled his eyes and said with a disdainful look, "You're really a pig. You have a pig's brain, right? What does the binding talisman mean? Of course it's spirit stones." Yun Chujio suddenly understood and said, "So it's spirit stones. How many spirit stones does that bundle require? My family used all the spirit stones to exchange for the Ascension Talisman. I am very poor." The guard looked at Yun Chujio with even more disdain. "Pay as much as you can. I have seen many idiots like you. In the end, you either died or were punished to do hard labor. You are really stupid." "Sir, do you mean that if you fail the test, you'll be killed or punished to do hard labor?" Yun Chujio asked in horror. "What? Do you regret it? It's useless even if you regret it. Don't dawdle, hurry up and pay the money. Otherwise, it'll throw you directly into hard labor." Yun Chujio didn't know the market situation here, so she didn't know how many spirit stones she should pay. If she took too much at once, not only would she suffer a loss, she would also be coveted by others. This was like a 3-year-old child carrying gold through the market. It was simply digging a hole for herself. Just when she was a little hesitant, people who had just ascended arrived one after another. The guard said impatiently, "Since you don't have the bundle, then scram to the side. Don't get in the way here." Yun Chujio just happened to want to see the level of the bundle, so she retreated to the side. Yun Chujio quickly discovered that the attitude of the guards was basically determined by the number on the ascending talisman. Of course, there were also some who used the method of throwing spirit stones to counterattack. However, weren't there too many people ascending? Why did it seem like dumplings were being dropped? Where did so many people come from? She quickly solved her doubts. The highest target of ascension in the 3,000 continents was the Divine Inspiration continent, so it was not surprising that there were many people. Yun Chujio quickly figured out the scope of the bundle, picked a level that was neither high nor low, and handed over the bundle. She did not feel sorry for the money, because she found that the 2 people who registered did not have much power. They just registered and let them pass. Money had to be spent on the blade. She was not a sucker. When the guard saw that she handed over the bundle, his attitude softened a little, but it was still very bad. The guard injected some information into her jade token and then said with disdain, "Go in. You will suffer in the future. You are really asking for trouble. Why did you come to the Ascending Heaven Dock to suffer?" Yun Chujio pretended not to hear these unpleasant words. She took the jade token and followed the other ascenders into the Ascending Heaven Dock. Chapter 54-51. Quenching Workshop. Most of the people who had just ascended did not know each other. Even so, a lot of people started chatting in a short period of time. They were not familiar with the place, so it was always good to have an ally. Hei Shinjio was more embarrassed. The others saw that her cultivation was low and she looked very poor, so no one paid attention to her. Yun Chujio did not care about this at all. Outstanding people were all lonely. Yes, that was it. After everyone entered the heavenly dock, someone immediately berated, "Do you have any rules? Follow the instructions on the sign and stand properly. All of you be quiet. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Only then did Yun Chujio realize that there were a few wooden signs in front of them with different spiritual roots written on them. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. Since she wanted to pass the test, she naturally couldn't reveal that she had a thunder spiritual root, so she could disguise herself as a fire spiritual root. Thus, she secretly stood in the line of fire spiritual roots. However, after everyone lined up, there were no further instructions. They didn't dare to make a sound and could only wait patiently. They waited until sunset before someone brought them to different areas. Yun Chujio followed the fire spirit route team to the quenching workshop. A person who looked like a manager sized them up and said arrogantly, "My surname is Bai. You can call me Manager BI from now on. Since you're already here, it means that your qualifications are average and you don't have much to rely on. So, be sensible. Don't think that you're people of the Divine Enlightenment continent just because you've obtained the Heaven Ascension Talisman. You have one test every 3 months, and each person has 3 chances. If you can't pass, then you can only go to the cold wilderness mine to do hard labor." At this time, someone mustered up his courage and asked, "Manager Bai, what's the content of the test?" The manager wanted to flare up, but seeing that person's cold face, he said, "The test is simple and clear. As long as you reach the first level of the Divine Enlightenment, you'll pass." Many people immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It was not too difficult for them to reach the first level of the Divine Enlightenment after breaking through to the peak of the 9th level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm. Hei Shinjio felt like she was barking a dog in her heart. It was not difficult for others, but it was too damn difficult for her. Unless she could receive 2 lightning strikes during the assessment period, she would be able to reach the first level of the Divine Enlightenment. However, would there be lightning strikes in this ascending heaven dock? Even if there were lightning strikes, how could she not attract the attention of others and absorb the lightning? Do you guys think that this assessment is easy to pass? How naive! Although the peak of the 9th layer of the Spirit Extinguisher realm is the first layer of the Divine Revelation realm, only those blessed by God can successfully break through. Some people will never be able to overcome this hurdle in their entire lives. To tell you the truth, at most, only half of the people can pass the assessment, and most of them barely pass the 3rd assessment. Everyone was obviously frightened by Manager Bi's words, and all of them looked nervous. Manager BI was very satisfied to see everyone's frightened and worried look, and continued to say, "Don't think that you only need to cultivate when you arrive at the soaring dock. Our place is not a benevolent hall. You can only arrange your own time after you complete the required work. If you can't complete it, then follow the rules. If the executioner doesn't care about the severity of the punishment and accidentally kills the person, that's a common occurrence. So be smart." Manager Bi's words made everyone even more fearful and uneasy. Some people even faintly regretted it. If they had known it would be like this, they would rather not ascend. Their cultivation could be said to be at the top level in the lower continent. Why would they come here to be bullied? Chapter 54-52. Why did he want to ascend immediately? Someone said with a trembling voice, "Manager Bai, can I go back to the original continent? I don't want to ascend anymore." Manager BI's expression didn't change much as he asked, "You want to go back to the original continent?" Seeing that Manager Bi's tone didn't change much, that person immediately became bolder and nodded. "Yes, I don't want to stay in the Divine Enlightenment continent anymore. I want to go back." Manager BI nodded. "Since you want to go back, then go back. Someone, send him back." Immediately, several guards walked up to the man. The man was delighted and was about to thank Manager Bai, but the guards stopped him at the same time. The man was frightened and confused. What's going on?" Manager Bai sneered, "Don't you want to go back? Then I'll send you back completely. Do it." Almost as soon as Manager Bai finished his words, that person didn't even have the time to scream before his body fell to the ground. This change obviously scared everyone present. Many people's faces changed drastically and even started to tremble. See? This is the result of having a weak Tao heart. Tell me, why do you want to ascend? Manager Bai pointed at a random person. That person said with a trembling voice, "For the great Tao, to obtain a higher cultivation base, when the cultivation base of the lower continent reaches a certain level, it will be shackled, and it will be unable to continue to raise the cultivation base." Manager Bai nodded. "That's right. You can stay in the lower continent and do whatever you want, but why do you want to ascend to the Divine Enlightenment continent? Because you want to become stronger, because you want to extend your lifespan, so there's no way out. Once you choose to ascend, there is no way out, so don't take any chances. Do you see the notice board next to it? It says the rules of the Ascending Heaven Dock and the Quenching Fire Workshop. Open your eyes and look carefully. Don't cry for your parents when you commit a crime. It's useless. After Manager Bai finished speaking, he asked everyone to hand over the past jade token in their hands. Then they engraved a number on it. This number would be their identity in the future. Yun Chujio took the jade pass and looked at it. There was a symbol of a flame on it. Behind the flame, there were two big words, Chojio. Yun Chujio, who gave her the number? Come out. She promised not to beat him to death. Damn it. Who are you calling ugly? However, when this guy saw the other people's jade passes, he immediately understood that the number was arranged according to the heaven and earth branches. Therefore, he could only say that she was unlucky. Look for your residences according to the numbers on your jade plates. Come and gather at midnight tomorrow. Everyone quickly agreed and squeezed in front of the notice board to look carefully. They were afraid that they would accidentally offend any of the rules in the future and their lives would be forfeited. Yun Chujio glanced at the contents of the notice board and memorized it. She cursed in her heart. The rules here were too strict. It was no different from being in prison. She did not know what the so-called job was. Forget it. Finding a place to live was more important. There were many rules on the notice board. There was also a floor plan of the entire Ascending Heaven Dock. Yun Chujio followed the signs and found the dormitory area of the Quenching Workshop. When she arrived at the so-called dormitory area, Yun Chujio's heart was like a dog that was complaining. There were 20 people living in a room, but there was only one bed. Obviously, only one person had the right to live on the bed. The others could only sleep on the floor. When Yun Chujio entered the room was already full of people, and the way they looked at her was very unfriendly. The reason was very simple. The space in the room was limited, and the more people who lived in the room, the more crowded it was. Chapter 54-53, Shinwu Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. She thought that she was willing to live in the house. If it wasn't for the notice board stating that it was forbidden to sleep outdoors, she would rather set up a tent outside than live in such an environment. Just as Yun Chujio was cursing in her heart, another person walked in. It was two young women who came in. The two of them were stunned when they saw the situation in the house. The woman with almond eyes said with disdain, "Is this a place where people live? How can we sleep with so many people?" The other woman quickly said, "Lien-yi, lower your voice. If the guards hear you, they might be punished." As soon as she said that, the middle-aged woman sitting on the bed snorted coldly, "How dare you? Don't you know that this place can only be called by numbers?" Besides, since they had entered the heavenly dock, they shouldn't put on airs. Everyone was the same. Who was more noble than who? You three newcomers, listen up. I'll leave the hygiene of this room to you until the next batch of newcomers arrive. Do you understand? Yun Chujio glanced at the number of the jade plate on the middle-aged woman's waist. She thought that the number of the jade plate shouldn't be arranged along the bottom line. Instead, the number should be used according to the number that was left empty. Otherwise, according to the arrangement of the branches of heaven and earth. This Chenlu should not be lower than her Chojio. The almond-shaped eye that spoke earlier was obviously not convinced, but it was stopped by the woman next to her. Yun Chujio glanced at the almond-shaped eye and the jade token of the woman next to her. One was Shen Wu, and the other was Wei Ba. Chen Lu saw that Shen Wu did not say anything else. She snorted coldly and did not say anything else. Shen Wu was so angry that she gritted her teeth. If it was not for Wei Ba who kept stopping her, she would definitely have argued with Chen Lu. Shen Wu saw that Yun Chujio's dark eyes were looking at him, so she shouted unhappily, "What are you looking at? You look as ugly as your name." Yun Chujio. After Shen Wu finished shouting, Yun Chujio felt a little better. She pulled Wei Ba to the innermost part of the house, probably because she wanted to sleep there. It was much quieter there compared to other places, and it was indeed better than other places. Unfortunately, just as the two of them reached there, they were stopped by a burly woman. "This is my territory, get lost." Shen Wu was about to fly into a rage, but she did not know what Wei Ba had given the burly woman. The burly woman grinned and said, "You're quite smart, I'll let you guys have this place." Shen Wu grumbled a little and then began to tidy up the floor with Wei Ba. Yun Chujio, on the other hand, chose a floor near the door indifferently. This was the worst spot, and the wind was strong and noisy. The others did not say anything when they saw that she was sensible. Yun Chujio lay on the floor for a while. She felt a little hungry and took out a meat bun to eat. The fragrance of the meat bun instantly filled the room. Many people subconsciously sniffed, especially the burly woman, Ding Er, who was staring at the meat bun in Yun Chujio's hand. Yun Chujio was a little scared by her stare. She wondered why these people acted like they had never eaten a meat bun before. Yun Chujio felt that something was wrong, so she quickly ate the meat bun in her hand, afraid that something would happen. At this moment, Shen Wu curled his lips and said, "Isn't it just meat buns? Look at the way some people are craving them, it's really embarrassing." Wei Ba, who was beside her, was speechless. Chapter 54:54 The beautiful day began. Wei Ba directly used steamed buns to block Shen Wu's mouth so that she wouldn't get into trouble. However, it was already too late. With Ding Er as the leader, more than 10 women surrounded Shen Wu and Wei Ba in the middle. "Little bitch, who are you calling a disgrace? If it wasn't for the fact that you were tactful, I wouldn't have given up my position to you. Looks like you need to be taught a lesson," Ding Er said fiercely. Shen Wu was obviously a person who didn't lose out to others. She shouted, "What? Did I say something wrong? Isn't it just a meat bun? Look at your greedy faces." Ding Er reached out and grabbed Shen Wu's clothes. "Say that again." Shen Wu tried her best to struggle free, but the thick and strong woman's hands were like pincers. She couldn't break free at all. Wei Ba, who was beside her, sighed in her heart and said, "Sisters, please calm down. Shen Wu's brain is not very bright, so she often talks nonsense. I'll apologize on her behalf. Take these buns and divide them among yourselves. Treat it as a small token of our appreciation," Wei Ba said as she took out a big food box. It was filled with meat buns with thin skin and big stuffing. Ding Er let go of Shen Wu and took the food box. Then he said, "I've changed my mind. You guys move to the door now. Otherwise, itching." Shen Wu was so angry that her face turned red, but fortunately, she finally understood the principle that a small arm could not beat a thigh. She gritted her teeth and moved the luggage to Yun Chujio's side with Wei Ba. Shen Wu felt that all of this was caused by Yun Chujio eating meat buns, so she glared at her fiercely. "Move aside. Move aside. Don't you have eyes?" Yun Chujio did not care at all. She dragged her luggage to the door to make room. Shen Wu saw that Yun Chujio was so obedient and curled her lips. She felt much better. After all, there was still a weakling who was even more pitiful than them. At this moment, Ding Er handed the big food box to Chen Lu. Chen Lu gave Ding Er 5 steamed buns and kept the rest in her storage ring. The others looked on eagerly, but no one dared to raise any objections. Seeing this, Yun Chujio immediately understood the status of everyone in the room. Chen Lu had the absolute right to speak, and everyone else had to listen to her orders. This guy immediately set a small goal for himself, to kill Chen Lu and replace her. Of course, she was new here, so she couldn't act rashly for the time being. She could take it slow, and there was no rush. Shen Wu suddenly saw a hint of a sinister smile on Yun Chujio's lips, and he was so scared that he shivered. When he looked again, he found that Yun Chujio had already returned to her cowardly appearance. Humph! It was impossible for a weak person at the 6th level of Spirit Extinguisher to have such a sinister smile. She must have seen it wrong. After all this, the sky had completely darkened. There was no light source in the room, only the moonlight that came in through the narrow window. Shen Wu's stifled sobs came from beside her. Yun Chujio found it funny in her heart. She thought that this Shen Wu was very arrogant, but it turned out that he was just a paper tiger. Although she was very surprised by the situation in Ascending Heaven Dock, she had always been getting stronger and stronger. Not only did she not feel depressed, but she was also eager to give it a try. Most importantly, She felt that Yun Qi must be in the divine Qi continent. When she thought of meeting Yun Qi, she did not care about any difficulties. Under Shen Wu's stifled sobs, Yun Chujio quickly fell asleep. The next morning, before Yun Chujio could wake up, she was woken up by the noise of the others. She curled her lips. A beautiful day had begun. Chapter 54-55. Dining Hall. Shen Wu, who had a pair of red and swollen eyes, saw that Yun Chujio was actually showing that sinister expression again. She immediately shivered. When she took a closer look, she found that Yun Chujio was still the same weak appearance. She shook her head. She must have not slept well last night, so she saw wrongly. Everyone went out to wash up. It was really too crowded in the room, so there was no way to wash up. Yun Chujio found a row of sinks in front of the dormitory yesterday. It was probably the place to wash up. As expected, she saw Chen Lu and the others washing up at the sink when she came out of the room. However, due to the limited space of the sink, many people could only wait at the back. Shen Wu saw her slow appearance and snorted, "You really can hold your temper? Aren't you afraid that you won't have time to wash up?" The corner of Yun Chujio's lips curled up slightly, and then she said indifferently, "You came out earlier than me, but you're also ranked last?" Shen Wu. She and Wei Ba came out very early, but because they were ostracized by those people, they were forcefully pushed to the end. Shen Wu glared at Yun Chujio angrily, and then she opened her mouth and squeezed out 3 words, "Ugly monster." Yun Chujio. Even though she was not very beautiful in her disguise, she could still be considered a delicate beauty. Was Shen Wu blind? After a while, it was finally their turn to wash up. Before they finished washing up, they saw that Chen Lu and the others had already lined up and were ready to set off. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and hurriedly followed. Wei Ba also dragged Shen Wu and chased after them. Shen Wu complained, "I haven't finished washing up yet. Why are you in such a hurry?" Wei Ba explained in a low voice, "They have already lined up. If we don't follow them, we will definitely be punished." Shen Wu also reacted after hearing Wei Ba's words. He glared at the people in front of him with hatred and did not say a word. Yun Chujio thought to herself, it was all thanks to Wei Ba helping Shen Wu. Otherwise, she would have died many times over. Yun Chujio quickly saw the teams from the other dormitories. They were all lined up neatly. Yun Chujio realized that the people from the other dormitories did not seem to be on good terms with each other. All of them had cold expressions on their faces. Could it be that there was competition between the dormitories? Yun Chujio was puzzled as she followed the team to the canteen. As Chen Lu and the rest sat in the designated seats, there was a sign on the table with the words, Group 9, written on it. Yun Chujio noticed that there was the same sign on the other tables, indicating the group. When Yun Chujio was looking around, the door of the canteen closed with a bang. She could vaguely hear the guards outside sneering, "Eat? All of you who have left the team will be punished with a cane. Since you are new here, each of you will receive a cane." Shen Wu could not help but shiver. If Wei Ba had not dragged her to catch up with the team, she would have been among the ones who were punished. Wei Ba looked at Yun Chujio without batting an eyelid. She was surprised. This Chojio looked very weak, but sometimes people could not see through her. If she had not reacted and caught up with the team just now, she would not have thought of this. At this moment, the sound of a bell ringing rang from the rice window. Dinger immediately stood up and rushed to the rice window. Seeing that the others did not move, Yun Chujio thought, looks like each group only needs one person to fetch the rice. Dinger came back very quickly and left in a hurry. Yun Chujio's heart moved. It seemed that there was a limit to the meal time. Otherwise, Dinga would not be in such a hurry. Chapter 54-56. Punishment with a cane. Dinger placed the breakfast on the table. There was only a basin of porridge, a basin of steamed buns, and a plate of pickled vegetables. Chen Lu took the first 3 steamed buns, Dinger took 2, and the rest only took 1. There was not a single steamed bun left in the basin. In the end, Yun Chujio and the other 2 were only given half a bowl of porridge. Shen Wu's eyes turned even redder from anger. She wanted to say something, but although she was rash, she was not stupid. Other than the sound of eating, there was no other sound in the canteen. If she made a sudden noise, she would definitely be punished. She thought about it again. Anyway, there was still food in her storage ring. What was so good about a broken steamed bun? She was about to take something out from her storage ring to eat when she heard a cold snort from not far away. Don't you know that you can't eat the food that comes with you in the canteen? Go out and receive your punishment. Shen Wu was so frightened that she trembled. She obediently drank the half bowl of porridge that was given to her. Yun Chujio also drank the half bowl of porridge. She cursed in her heart. This ascending heaven doc was simply treating these newly ascended people as criminals. No, they were not treated as human beings at all. However, this fellow soon made a new discovery. The breakfast on each table was not exactly the same. Although most of them were the same, there were still 3 tables that were different from them. Some had more porridge and some had more mantu. One table actually had big buns, and each person could get at least 5 of them. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this breakfast had something to do with the quality or speed of completing the mission? After a while, the door of the canteen opened. Chen Lu immediately stood up, and the others also quickly stood up and followed her out of the canteen. At this time, it was not yet midnight and the east had just turned white. Yun Chujio followed Chen Lu to the meeting place yesterday. Soon, the small square was full of people. When midnight arrived, Manager Bai walked over. He glanced at the crowd and said, "Group 7 failed to complete the mission yesterday. Apart from not having breakfast, they will be punished with 5 strokes of the cane in public. Step out." Immediately, Group 7's faces turned pale as they walked to the front. These 7 groups were all women. Being publicly punished with a cane was obviously very humiliating. However, they did not dare to resist. They could only be punished with 5 strokes of the cane in front of everyone and limped back to their original positions. Shen Wu's face instantly turned pale. She had always been able to do whatever she wanted. If she was publicly punished with a cane, it would be worse than killing her. She did not know what the so-called mission was. Could it be that their 9th group would not be able to complete it? She regretted it. She really regretted it. If she had known earlier, she would not have ascended. However, it was too late to say anything. At this moment, Manager Bi's fierce voice sounded again. "You must know that the most important thing in ascending heaven doc is the rules. The rules cannot be broken. If anyone dares to challenge the rules of ascending heaven doc, that would be courting death. Alright, let's go to work. I hope that there will be fewer teams punished tomorrow morning." When Yun Chujio heard Manager Bi's words, she was puzzled. What did he mean by this? What did he mean by fewer teams? She followed the team out of the square with questions. At first, the team only left quickly. After they left a city gate, they sped up even more. Shen Wu glanced at Yun Chujio, who was behind him, and thought, "This little scumbag will definitely not be able to keep up with the team." Who would have thought that she would quickly realize that she was wrong, because Yun Chujio had been following behind her unhurriedly. Strange, wasn't this little scumbag at level 6 of Spirit Extinguisher? How could she be so fast? Chapter 54-57, Eternal Ice. Yun Chujio ignored Shen Wu, who looked back from time to time. Her gaze fell into the distance. She finally understood why this place was called the Heavenly Dock. It was because there was an extremely wide river in the distance. When she got closer, Yun Chujio widened her eyes in surprise. She had never seen such a strange river. Half of the river was turbulent, and the huge waves were more than 100 feet high. The other half was solid ice. The one near them was solid ice. She wondered what their mission was. Could it be related to this solid ice? While Yun Chujio was thinking, Chen Lu said with a gloomy face, "Shen Wu, Wei Ba, and Chojio, listen up. The mission is based on the number of people, even if you are newbies. If the 3 of you drag us down and make us suffer, I will not forgive you when we return to the dormitory." Dinger chimed in from the side, "Damn it, I'm so unlucky to have the 3 of you weaklings. All of you better work harder, or I'll take care of you for boss." Especially you, you're only at level 6 of Spirit Extinguisher. I don't know what dirty tricks you used to get the Ascension Talisman. It's fine if you want to die, but don't drag us down. Yun Chujia's eyes deepened, but her face carried some fear as she asked, I don't know. What is this mission? Do you see that hard ice? That's the ancient hard ice. What we need to do is to mine that hard ice. A person needs to mine 2 pieces of hard ice a day to complete the mission. In addition, the first 3 teams that complete the mission will have breakfast and lunch rewards. But with you 3 idiots around, it's already good enough that we can complete the mission. Don't even think about getting into the top 3. Dingner said impatiently. Yun Chujio nodded. So that was the case. However, Dingner didn't mention dinner. It seemed that there was no dinner. However, it was strange. Didn't these people bring some food? The canteen didn't allow them to eat, so they could eat in the dormitory secretly. She didn't know that these people originally thought that there would be higher-level food after ascending. After all, the level of the Divine Inspiration continent was much higher than their original continent. Therefore, most of them didn't bring anything to eat. Even if they did bring some, they were almost done eating. Wei Ba asked from the side, Sister Ding Er, do you know how to mine the hard ice? Do you have any tools? Dingner said impatiently, You'll know in a while. Chen Lu stepped on the hard ice with 9 groups of people. The moment they stepped on it, Shen Wu and Wei Ba shivered because of the bone-chilling air coming from the soles of their feet, which almost froze them. The 2 of them quickly circulated their spiritual power and felt better. Hei Shinjio did not feel the cold at all because of the existence of the small flame. At this moment, she was thinking that she was a fire spirit root in disguise. Although she could use some simple fire-type skills, if it was too complicated, she would not be able to do anything about it. If she needed to release the spiritual beast, it would be even worse. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, the team stopped. Chen Lu threw out some strange-looking tools from her storage ring. On the top was a handle, and below it was a hollow square frame. As for the material used to create it, Yun Chujio had never seen it before. Dingner said impatiently, See? This is called an ice pick shovel. You guys inject your spirit energy into the handle, and the handle will conduct heat to the shovel below. Then, you will melt the solid ice, and finally, you will extract the solid ice. Chapter 54-58 Ice Mining. Shen Wu looked at the ice mining shovel in her hand and asked in confusion, even if these 4 borders cut out the edges of the hard ice, what about the bottom side? Dingner looked at Shen Wu in disdain and then used his hand to press on a protruding part of the handle. He saw that one of the borders could actually move slowly. See? When the borders completely enter the hard ice, press this button and the entire piece of hard ice will be cut out. Yun Chujio thought to herself, this ice pick was designed very exquisitely. As long as the heat was enough, it would be able to extract the entire piece of hard ice. However, she did not know why this ascending heaven dock needed so much hard ice. Could it be that this hard ice was a treasure? At this moment, Chen Lu said coldly, since you understand, then hurry up and work. Hurry up, if anyone can't finish it, H. Everyone quickly chose their positions and started to pick ice with ice scoops. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. This ice picking was simply too easy for her. She only needed to let the small flame inject heat into the ice scoops. Let alone one piece, she could have as many as she wanted. However, she knew the need to hide her weakness, so she decided to follow Shen Wu's progress. As for whether she would be punished, she had already calculated that if there was someone who completed it first, she would use food to exchange for it. The method was always more difficult than the method. Time passed quickly. Half a day had passed, and Shen Wu had only completed a quarter of a piece of solid ice with her teeth bared. According to her speed, she probably would not be able to extract a piece of solid ice at night. Wei Ba was slightly better than her. She had already completed half of a piece of solid ice. She estimated that she would be able to extract a piece of solid ice at night. The reason why Shen Wu was not as fast as Wei Ba was because she had spent a lot of spiritual power to keep warm. The ice on the surface of the ice was so cold that it almost froze her bones. Shen Wu could not help but feel a little anxious. If this continued, she would definitely not be able to complete the mission by night. It would be fine if she was beaten up by Ding and the others, but the thought of being beaten up in public made Shen Wu want to cry. Just as Shen Wu was feeling anxious, Yun Chujio came over and whispered, "Why don't we use food to exchange for hard ice with Ding and the others? It's better than being punished." This was the first time Shen Wu found Yun Chujio so pleasing to the eye. She felt that this idea was not bad. Wei Ba also felt that this method was feasible. Although she and Shen Wu did not bring much food, they had to get through this difficult situation first. Moreover, if they could not complete the mission, Chen Lu and the others would also be punished. Thus, Wei Ba came forward and told Ding what the three of them were thinking. Ding was more than happy to do so, but she still greeted Chen Lu. After getting his approval, she then said to the three of them, "Boss and I can each mine an additional piece of solid ice. You guys think of a way to produce 4 pieces. Otherwise, we won't be able to help." Shen Wu was dumbfounded when she heard that. The three of them had to complete 6 pieces before they would not be punished. However, from the looks of it, only Wei Ba could complete 1 piece at night. She and Chojio would have a tough time as well. There was still a gap of 3 pieces. Dinger did not care whether it was enough or not. He turned around and continued to mine ice. "What should we do? Even if they help us mine 2 pieces, we still need 3 more pieces. Why don't we get someone else to help us?" Shen Wu said with a frown. Wei Ba shook her head. "I just looked. According to the others' progress, they don't have the strength to help." When Shen Wu heard this, the string that had been taut suddenly snapped. One by one, tears froze on her face. She had no choice, it was too cold. Chapter 54-59 had actually completed the mission. Shen Wu wanted to die the moment she thought of being punished in public. She gritted her teeth and did not care about the cold anymore. She desperately injected fire's spiritual power into the ice pick shovel. Wei Ba was the same. She only distributed some of her spiritual power to ensure that she would not get frostbite. The rest of her fire's spiritual power was injected into the ice pick shovel. Yun Chujio saw that Shen Wu's progress was faster, so she also sped up her own progress. She calculated in her heart that based on this speed, she would not be able to complete it no matter what. She had to think of a way. She rolled her eyes and said to Shen Wu and Wei Ba, "Why don't the 3 of us work together to mine? Perhaps it will be faster. Firstly, it's good for the 3 of us to gather together to keep warm. Secondly, we can continue to supply spiritual power. We can reduce the amount of spiritual power wasted due to the interruption." If it was before, Shen Wu would definitely not have agreed. This was because she looked down on Yun Chujio and felt that she was a weakling. But now, she was desperate. Since she could not complete it no matter what, she might as well give it a try according to what she said. Wei Ba also felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. There was no point in giving it a try. Hence, the 3 of them gathered together and started to mine Wei Ba's piece of solid ice. At first, Yun Chujio converted her lightning spiritual power into fire spiritual power. Later on, she secretly transferred the heat of the small flame to the handle. The 3 of them only used less than an hour to finish mining Wei Ba's block of ice. Wei Ba and Shen Wu were so shocked that their mouths were wide open. Wei Ba calculated that if she were to mine by herself, she would need at least 4 hours. The 3 of them working together seemed to be much faster than the 3 of them combined. However, time was tight and there was no time to talk. The 3 of them continued to mine Shen Wu's block of solid ice. In the end, before the work was done, Yun Chujio and the other 2 managed to dig out 4 blocks of solid ice. Of course, this speed was completely dependent on Yun Chujio. Later on, when she saw that the speed was a little fast, she stopped letting the little flame provide the heat and the 3 of them slowed down. However, Shen Wu and Wei Ba did not have any doubts. They just thought that they had used up too much spiritual power before, so it was normal for them to slow down later. Chen Lu was a little surprised when she saw that the 3 of them had actually mined out 4 pieces of solid ice. She was already prepared for the whole 9 groups to be punished. Dinger and the others were also a little surprised. When they first came, each of them could only mine one piece of solid ice at most, but these three people had actually mined out 4 pieces? Chen Liu's eyes flashed. She had seen the three of them working together to mine ice. Could it be because of this? If this really could increase the speed of ice mining, they could try it tomorrow. Perhaps they could rush to the first place. At this time, the sun was about to set, and the solid ice was getting colder and colder. Chen Lu hurriedly put away the solid ice and led the group toward the shore. There were guards on the shore who checked and accepted the hard ice. After registering the number, Chen Lu brought everyone back to the ascending heaven dock. Everyone went straight back to the dormitory. When Chen Lu and the others took turns to wash up, Yun Chujio and the other 2 bitterly cleaned the dormitory. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and took out 2 meat buns and ate them in no time. Shen Wu and Wei B's eyes lit up and they quickly stuffed something into their mouths. They ate lunch on ice. Although Chen Lu did not skimp and gave them 2 buns each, they were still starving. Although they could eat their own food in the dormitory, they did not forget the hungry eyes of those people yesterday. It was better to avoid causing trouble. Chapter 5460, First place. Chen Lu and Ding were the first to return to the dormitory. Wei Ba handed the 10 buns that the 3 of them had prepared in advance to Chen Lu. Chen Lu gave 4 to Ding and the remaining 6 to Wei Ba. Even so, Ding was very happy. He revealed a rare smile and said, "The 3 of you go wash up." Yun Chujio and the other 2 then went out to wash up. When the 3 of them returned, Chen Lu and the others were already meditating and cultivating. Only then did Yun Chujio realize that there was still a sharp sword hanging above her head. If she could not reach the first layer of the divine enlightenment within 9 months, she would be sent to the cold wilderness mine to do hard labor. Even if she persuaded the 3 foodies in her dantian to release the power of lightning to help her break through, she would at most be able to break through 2 layers and reach the 8th layer of the spirit extinguisher. There was no way for her to reach the first layer of the divine enlightenment. Unless there was some blind Wu Yun who came to strike her, she could only bitterly work as a miner. Shen Wu directly fell to the ground and straightened her corpse. She was already exhausted to death. How could she have the energy to cultivate? Wei Ba barely cultivated for a while. She was really too tired, so she also resigned herself to her fate and lay on the ground. The eyes of the 2 people were somewhat empty and confused. If this happened day after day, how would they have the time and energy to cultivate? Wouldn't they be sent to the cold wilderness mine in the end? The next day, when they had breakfast, Chen Lu did not deduct the steamed buns from Yun Chujio and the other 2. Ding was also tactful and did not take too much. When they gathered, Shen Wu saw that 6 teams were punished. She was really afraid. If that ugly freak had not thought of a way, she would have been punished too. After listening to Manager Biss' admonition, everyone left the heavenly dock and arrived at the bank of the ancient river. Chen Lu observed the progress of Yun Chujio and the other 2 during the ice mining. She estimated that the 3 of them could still mine 4 pieces of hard ice today. It was indeed faster than if they were alone. Should they try the entire 9 teams? Chen Lu thought about it. For the sake of safety, she decided to observe again. Another 2 days passed. Chen Lu saw that although Yun Chujio and the other 2 could only mine 4 pieces of hard ice, they were much more skillful. She estimated that they would be able to collect 5 pieces of hard ice after a period of time. Chen Lu felt that this method was feasible. Therefore, that night, she shared her thoughts and decided to form a group of 3 the next day. Since there were 20 people in total, she and Ding would form a group. The other members of Group 9 had also seen the situation of Yun Chujio and the other 2 in the past few days. Their hearts had long been tempted. If they could really increase their efficiency, they would have more time to cultivate. As for the top 3, to be honest, they did not dare to have high hopes. After all, their 9 groups were all women, so their physical strength was definitely not as good as the group of men. The next day, the 9 groups began to mine the hard ice according to the groups they had divided earlier. They had never dreamed that they would actually complete the task 2 hours ahead of time. Everyone looked at each other in a daze and counted the hard ice on the ground. They had actually finished so much ahead of time? Chen Lu looked around. Even the 3 groups that were usually in first place had not finished yet. Did this mean that their 9 groups were in first place? Just as Chen-Lu was in a daze, Yun Chujio said weakly, "Sister Chen-Lu, let's go and check it quickly so that we won't be taken by others first." Chen-Lu came back to her senses and immediately rushed to the shore. The guards in charge of the inspection were also a little surprised. These 9 teams were almost always last. Why was it so fast today? Chapter 5461 Reversal. After the guard accepted the hard ice, Chen-Lu led everyone back to the ascending heaven dock. At this moment, everyone finally regained their senses and their faces were filled with joy. No matter what, they could at least have a full meal the next day. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but laugh at themselves. How could they ever imagine that one day, they would have to worry about filling their stomachs? However, these difficulties were temporary. As long as they passed the test of the heavenly dock, they would be people of the divine enlightenment continent in the future. The next day, when they were eating breakfast, the other teams looked at Group 9 with envy, jealousy, and some suspicion. They had never thought that Group 9 would actually win the first place yesterday. Group 9 didn't pay attention to their gazes. At this moment, they were all wolfing down meat buns. Some of them even had red eyes. This was the first time they felt that meat buns were so damn delicious. For 3 days in a row, Group 9 had won first place. However, the other groups also discovered the reason why Group 9 had won first place, so they all imitated it. In this way, the advantage of Group 9 was gone, and they were reduced to the back again. After getting used to eating meat buns, they suddenly ate mantou again. Moreover, they were not full. One could imagine the psychological difference in everyone. However, there was nothing they could do. No matter what, at least they had more time to cultivate than before. That morning, when they gathered, Manager Bai said with a rare smile, "The performance of Group 9 has been very good recently. They took the lead in implementing cooperative ice picking, which greatly increased the efficiency of ice picking." Chen-Lu, who came up with this idea? Chen-Liu's eyes flashed slightly and said, "It was a method that I came up with inadvertently. I thought that it might increase the efficiency, so I tried it." Manager Bai nodded his head in approval. "Not bad. You've made a great contribution. Keep up the good work in the future." Chen-Liu's face turned slightly red. She was very excited. After receiving Manager Bai's praise, it would be beneficial both during the assessment and in the future. As for whether she came up with this idea in the beginning or not, it was no longer important. Anyway, the 3 good-for-nothings didn't dare to say anything. The other members of Group 9 also straightened their backs with pride. Their faces were full of joy and pride. Shenwu didn't expect Chen-Lu to be so shameless. This idea was obviously thought up by that ugly freak. How did it become her idea? However, she wasn't stupid enough to shout it out directly. She felt a bit unfair for Yun Chujio in her heart. Yun Chujio didn't care because she saw that Manager Bai's smile didn't reach her eyes. What was going on? At this moment, Manager Bai said, "Since everyone's efficiency has increased so much, then the amount of tasks should also increase accordingly. Otherwise, it will cause you to slack off. From today onwards, each group will add 10 pieces of solid ice to the original amount of tasks." Chen-Lu and the others were instantly dumbfounded. In this way, putting aside their own status, wouldn't the other groups hate their 9 groups to death? Chen-Lu was extremely vexed. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have taken the credit. But now, she was afraid that she would become the target of public criticism. As expected, when they arrived at the ancient ice surface, the other teams kept cursing at the 9 teams. If it weren't for the guards on the shore, they would have attacked. Even so, they didn't let the 9 teams off and forced them into the depths of the ice surface. The depths of the ice were not only colder, but the hard ice was harder to mine. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for the 9 groups to complete the mission. If this month's monthly ticket reaches the top 6 and 5 chapters in the classification board, now the 7th, it's up to you guys. I'm going all out. Chapter 5462. I have a plan. Chen Liu's expression was very ugly, but it was difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. Even if they risked being punished, they did not have the ability to fight against the other groups. Chen Lu immediately vented her anger on Yun Chujio and the other 2. She felt that if Yun Chujio and the other 2 had not taken the initiative to do so, she would not have done it. The 3 of them were the main culprits. Ding and the others also pinned the blame on Yun Chujio and the other 2. They were cursing and swearing. They were nothing more than jinx, evil spirits, and the like. They even clamored that they would return to the dormitory at night and teach Yun Chujio and the other 2 a lesson. Shen Wu was both afraid and resentful. It was clearly not their fault. Why should it be on them? Moreover, why didn't he thank them when he ate the meat buns? Now that something had happened, it was all their fault. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. Chen Lu, Ding Er, and the other clowns were nothing to be afraid of. However, she was thinking about Manager Bai. He obviously didn't want these people to be idle. To be more precise, he wanted them to fail the test. Why did he do that? Chen Lu and the others started to mine the ice. Even if they couldn't finish it, they would be punished less if they mined more. Shen Wu deliberately chose a remote place and scolded indignantly. It was that Chen Lu who made things worse. Why should she vent her anger on us? How shameless! Wei Ba was also very angry in her heart, but she still said, "Keep your voice down. If they hear you, they will definitely find trouble with us when we go back at night. If they find trouble, then they will find trouble. I've had enough. I don't want to live anymore when I think of being punished by the cane tomorrow." Shen Wu said with red eyes. She had been successful since she was young. When had she ever received such a punishment? She would rather suffer a little than be caned in public. One had to know that the part of being caned was the butt. Yun Chujio looked at Shen Wu and burst into laughter. Shen Wu had nowhere to vent his anger. He immediately scolded fiercely, "What are you laughing at? Are you sick? The public will be caned tomorrow, and you're still laughing." Yun Chujio's smile became even more brilliant. "I have a way to not be punished. Do you believe me?" Shen Wu looked at Yun Chujio's eyes, which were as bright as the stars, and was immediately stunned. She had never known that a person's eyes could be so beautiful. It was really strange. A few days ago, her eyes were full of cowardice, but why did they suddenly become so confident and intelligent? Seeing Yun Chujio's teasing expression, she immediately shouted with a flushed face, "That's easy to say. You won't be punished? What can you do?" Yun Chujio did not answer her question. Instead, she walked to Chen Lu. Chen Lu looked at her, the instigator, and immediately snorted, "Why didn't you work properly? Why did you come here?" Ding, who was at the side, also said unhappily, "You're a troublemaker. You still have the face to come here. It's useless even if you deliver the buns today. It'll definitely teach you a lesson when we go back tonight." Yun Chujio did not care about their words. She smiled faintly and said, "I have a way to complete the mission. Do you want to hear it?" When Yun Chujio said this, not only were Chen Lu and Ding stunned, but the people around them were also stunned. They raised their heads and looked at Yun Chujio. Chen Lu snorted coldly. "What can you do? The ancient ice here is much harder than before. Even if we try our best, we won't be able to complete the mission." "Then go back to the original place," Yun Chujio said with a faint smile. Chapter 5463 was called First Polite, then Military. Before Chen Lu could say anything, Ding curled his lips and scolded, "Are you out of your mind? Go back? Are you waiting to be beaten up when you go back? Those people already hate us to death because of the additional missions. If we go back, we will be sending ourselves to their doorstep to be beaten up." Although the others did not say anything, they clearly had the same thoughts as Ding Er. They felt that Yun Chujio was talking nonsense. Yun Chujio smiled faintly. "Then let them beat us up. Everyone." Ding was about to curse when Yun Chujio continued, "If they make a move, it will be a violation of the Quenching Fire Workshop's rules. They will also be punished. Do you think they will really make a move?" Ding choked. The people who chased them away earlier were indeed just cursing. They really didn't make a move. Perhaps they still really didn't dare to make a move. Chen Liu's eyes flashed. Even if you're right and they won't really make a move, we've already delayed for nearly 2 hours. Even if we return to our original place, we still won't be able to complete the mission. That's right. You knew this long ago, why didn't you say it earlier? Was it intentional? You're a pest. Ding scolded from the side. The others nodded one after another, and they couldn't help but grumble in their hearts. Could it be that this Cho Jio was holding a grudge and didn't tell Chen Lu because Chen Lu had taken her credit? Yun Chujio sighed. I just thought of this just now. If I can't escape being punished, why would I not tell you on purpose? Everyone thought about it and agreed. It seemed that they had misunderstood her. I just thought of a way to complete the mission, but it may not be feasible. Moreover, Sister Chen Lu will have to do it personally. I don't know if Sister Chen Lu will agree, Yun Chujio said hesitantly. Dinger immediately said, Aren't you talking nonsense? The boss is the leader of Group 9. If there is a way to complete the mission, the boss will naturally not give up. The others also agreed, but Chen Lu had a bad feeling in her heart. However, she was now riding a tiger, so she could only say stiffly, Ding is right. You say it. As long as we can complete the mission, I will do my best. Although she said so, she cursed Dinger in her heart. This pig brain. It was more than enough to ruin things. Yun Chujio said with admiration, Sister Chen Lu is indeed worthy of being our team leader. She is indeed responsible. When we return to our original place, the 10 teams nearby will definitely come and chase us away. Sister Chen Lu, you should sincerely apologize to them at that time. It would be best if it was the tearful kind. Chen Liu's face became even more stiff. Tearful apology. If that was the case, how would she be able to survive in the Quench Fire workshop in the future? Moreover, even if she apologized, the people of Group 10 would not forgive her. After all, their direct interests had been damaged. Chojio, I can apologize, but they won't accept it at all. This method of yours won't work. Chen Lu refused in a disguised manner. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes slyly. Sister Chen Lu, it's okay if Group 10 doesn't agree. I still have a backup plan. If they don't agree after you apologize, just say it. At most, we'll fight to the death. Since they won't let our Group 9 have a good life, then no one can think well. Just say that if they don't help us complete the mission, then you'll disturb them and won't let them complete the mission. HMH, this is called politeness before war. I don't believe that they're willing to be punished together with us. Chen Lu. Chapter 5464, Pig-like teammates. Chen Lu was so angry that she gritted her teeth. If this happened, the people in Group 10 would definitely hate her to death. They might even find an opportunity to secretly trip her up in the future. Just as she was about to refuse, Ding Ai slapped his thigh. This is a good idea. Fuck, if we can't do it, then don't even think about it in Group 10. Boss, Chojio's idea is not bad. At worst, you won't pick ice today and just fight with Group 10. Let's see who can outlast the other. Chen Lu was so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. She was not afraid of a godlike enemy, but she was afraid of a pig-like teammate. Sister Chen Lu, actually, if it wasn't for my lack of prestige and low spiritual power, I would have gone by myself. Only you have the qualifications to do so in our 9 groups. Moreover, you are the leader of Group 9. Only the people of Group 10 would believe your words. Sister Chen Lu, for the sake of our 9 groups not being punished, you will definitely agree, right? Yun Chujio asked with a look of anticipation. Although Shen Wu did not have any good intentions, she understood Yun Chujio's intention at this time. She immediately echoed, Yes, Sister Chen Lu, you are the most suitable candidate. You should not give in. The other people in Group 9 were not stupid. Although they felt that Yun Chujio might be trying to scam Chen Lu, as long as she did not get punished, it was good enough. Hence, they all echoed, Leader, Chojio's method is not bad. Go and try it. Yes, Leader. That Chin Shi from Group 10 is not on good terms with you. It's a good opportunity to teach her a lesson. Leader, say something. We are counting on you. Chen Lu glared at Yun Chujio viciously. Then she gritted her teeth and said, Don't worry. I am the leader. Naturally, I will protect you. Just do as Chojio says. Everyone immediately cheered. After the hard ice in their hands was extracted, they followed Chenlu back to the original ice extraction site. On the way, Chenlu said coldly to Yun Chujio, "Chojio, very good. They'll remember you." Yun Chujio bared her white teeth and smiled very innocently. "Sister Chenlu, they'll remember you too. From now on, we sisters will be a family that loves each other." Chenlu, damn it, I have never seen such a shameless person. Just wait and see. Sooner or later, this little bitch will die. The moment Group 9 returned, the people from Group 10 saw it. Group 10's leader, Chen Shi, immediately scolded, "Chenlu, are you out of your mind? Get lost quickly. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." Chenlu took a deep breath. She said, "Chen Shi, it's my fault this time. It doesn't matter if you hit me or scold me, but you can't vent your anger on others because of me. If our Group 9 fails to complete the mission, they will all be punished. I can't live with my conscience. So, whatever anger you have, just focus on me alone. Don't chase them away." Chen Shi curled her lips. "That's a nice way of saying it. Don't think that I don't know your morals. Are you doing this for them or for yourself? Let me tell you, no way." Chen Lu was about to fly into a rage when she saw Yun Chujio lip syncing to her, crying. Chen Lu. She suppressed the thought of strangling Yun Chujio to death and pinched herself. With tears streaming down her face, she said, "Sister Chen Shi, I was really wrong this time. Please spare me this time." Chen Shi saw that Chen Liu's face was frozen into a string of tears, and she felt both relieved and suspicious. How could this Chen Lu be so flexible today? Could it be that her personality had changed? However, she didn't want to let Chen Lu off. "Chen Lu, stop acting in front of me. Get lost. If you don't get lost, I won't be polite anymore." Chapter 5465 The Use of the Eternal Ice. Chen Lu immediately stopped crying after hearing Chen Shi's words. She sneered and said, "Chen Shi, leave a line in everything you do. It will be easier for us to meet in the future. Don't do things to the extreme." "Tsk, Chen Lu, what's the matter? Do you still dare to make a move?" Chen Shi curled her lips and said, "I'm not that stupid. However, since we can't get better, don't even think about it. I'm going all out today. They'll stay here and disturb you. I don't believe that you can complete the mission." Chen Lu said gloomily. Chen Shi thought that Chen Lu was just saying that. He sneered and said, "Oh? You dare?" Chen Lu didn't say anything. She walked directly to a person from Group 10 and stepped on the hard ice that they were mining. "Chen Lu, good. I remember you. You guys continue to mine the ice here. We won't interfere in each other's business in the future." Chen Shi was so angry that her face turned ashen. She wanted to make a move, but when she saw the patrolling guards on the shore, she could only grit her teeth and endure it. Chen Lu sneered and said, "This is not enough. You guys have to help us complete 10 pieces of hard ice today. Otherwise, we will be punished together." Chen Shi was so angry that she almost vomited blood. In the end, when she saw how Chen Lu was like a broken jar, she could only grit her teeth and hand Chen Lu the hard ice. However, in her heart she hated Chen Lu. Chen Lu returned to Group 9's territory with a cold face. Before she could say anything, Yun Chujio took the lead and applauded. "Thank you, Group Leader, you're so mighty." Chen Lu, what if she wanted to kill someone? Chen Lu endured the blood in her heart and said stiffly to everyone, "This is what I should do. Everyone, hurry up and get to work. Otherwise, we won't be able to complete the mission." Everyone nodded in agreement and then went to work. When they were picking ice, Shen Wu saw that there was no one nearby and curled her lips. "Ugly freak, I didn't expect you to have such a good brain. Not only do we not have to be punished, but we even tricked Chen Lu." Yun Chujio glanced at her. "If you call me ugly freak again, I'll trick you." Shen Wu was about to fly into a rage when Wei Bie interrupted. "Chojio, Chen Lu hates you now. She might come looking for trouble with you when she returns to the dormitory tonight. Be careful." Yun Chujio curled her lips. Don't worry. Shen Wu wanted to ask why, but she remembered that she had been rebuked by Yun Chujio previously. She snorted coldly. Stop wasting time. Hurry up and get to work. Wei Ba shook her head helplessly and did not speak anymore. At night, when the work was done, Group 9 miraculously completed their task. However, Group 10 looked at them as if they were about to eat someone alive. After returning to the dormitory, although Chen Liu's face was gloomy, she did not cause any trouble for Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio had already expected this. Chen Liu had implicated Group 9 because of a mistake in her decision. She did not want to cause any trouble now, so she could only endure it. In the next few days, everything was peaceful. Although the other groups were still full of resentment toward the 9 groups, because of Chen Liu's toughness, no one came to expel the 9 groups. Yun Chujio and Ding got to know each other better. As for why they got to know each other so quickly, the reason was very simple. Yun Chujio had food. Yun Chujio learned a lot about the soaring dock from Ding, such as the use of the ancient solid ice. Although the spirit energy in the divine enlightenment continent was rich, there was a drawback. Many cities were very hot. Although they could use arrays to lower the temperature, the cost was too high, and ordinary people couldn't afford it. With this, the immemorial solid ice had a vast market. It seemed that there was no hope for her to break through. Could it be that she really wanted to go mining? Just as she was thinking about it, Dinger said mysteriously, "However, there are times when we can rest." What situation can we rest? Yun Chujio pretended to be excited and asked. Dinger lowered his voice. You saw the eternal river split into 2, right? Yun Chujio nodded. I saw it. We have ice on one side and water on the other. I found it strange when I first saw it. How did it form? The river has existed for tens of thousands of years. No one knows how it formed. Although the water on the other side isn't frozen, the waves are torrential and there are many dangers hidden in it. There's no way to pass through it. There's only one part of the river that has a slightly slower flow. It's also the only passage to the divine enlightenment continent from the heavenly dock, Dinger said. Chapter 5467. The tide rose. Yun Chujio was a little puzzled. Sister Ding what does this have to do with US resting? It has a lot to do with us. Because every month, the 15 monstrous waves will rise up to 1,000 feet, and the river water will surge up with solid ice. Many aquatic demonic beasts will take the opportunity to go ashore to hunt. When that time comes, not only can we not go out to pick ice, but the entire soaring heavens dock will have to be in a strict formation to prevent the sea beasts from breaking into the city. This meant that the day after tomorrow would be 15. Although it was good that they did not need to pick ice, the terrifying situation at that time would also make people tremble in fear. Fortunately, I'm about to break through and don't need to stay in this damn place anymore, Dinger said. Although Yun Chujio was a little curious about what Dinger said, it was not enough to make up for the depression that this guy had caused in the Thunder Wilderness. She perfunctorily chatted with Dinger a few more times and then left. The next night, just after midnight, Yun Chujio heard a faint roar, and even the ground began to tremble. Oh my God! The earth dragon has turned over. Shen Wu jumped up from the ground and rushed out while howling. Yun Chujio. She grabbed Shen Wu's ankle and Shen Wu fell to the ground with a thud. Have you forgotten the rules of the Quenching Fire workshop? You will be punished if you leave the dormitory at night. Besides, this is not an earth dragon turning over, but a demonic beast climbing on the ice. It is still far from us. Shen Wu, who was about to fly into a rage, looked confused when she heard Yun Chujio's words. What was she talking about? Why didn't she understand? At this moment, Chen Lu shouted coldly, "Shut up and get out." Shen Wu pursed his lips and crawled back to his seat. He mouthed to Yun Chujio, "Really?" Yun Chujio nodded her head in amusement and closed her eyes. She wondered if she should let Go Wei Batsao add fuel to the fire. If the damage to the ascending heaven dock was severe, would there be no need to pick ice? The Goei Batsao in her dantian immediately shook its leaves. It was a small matter. Yun Chujio was immersed in her own thoughts and did not notice Goei Batsao. When she sensed Goei Bakeo's smug mood, she quickly used her spiritual sense to stop it. I haven't decided whether to do this or not. Don't do anything rash. Goei Batsao shook its leaves guiltily. It had already released its scent just now. If it stopped now, there should still be time, right? When Yun Chujio saw Goei Bakeo's appearance, she immediately understood that it had taken matters into its own hands again. Yun Chujio was so angry that she scolded Goei Batsao. She consoled herself that she had stopped it in time. Even if Goei Batsao had released its scent, it should not be a big deal. Yes, it would definitely be fine. She waited for a while, and when she saw that there was nothing unusual, she put her heart back into her stomach and fell asleep in a daze. As for the trembling of the ground, she took it as sleeping in the cradle. Just as she was sleeping soundly, a sharp shout came from outside. Get up! Get up! Quickly gather at the square. The people in the room were all startled awake. At this moment, they all had a bad premonition. Every time the tide rose, they only needed to stand guard at the edge of the city during the day, and most of the time, they just stared at it. They didn't need to do anything. Why did they have to gather in the middle of the night this time? Could it be that there was something fishy about the sea beasts this time? Although everyone was puzzled, they moved very quickly and quickly left the dormitory. At this moment, the sky-reaching dock was already brightly lit and the shouts shook the sky. Everyone's hearts were shrouded in a layer of shadow. Chapter 5468, Giant Ice Wristband. Everyone quickly arrived at the square. Manager Bis' expression was very ugly. If one looked closely, one could see some fear. Manager Bai saw that everyone had arrived and said fiercely, "The beast tide this time is very fierce. Other than the star seal sea beasts, there are also many moon seal sea beasts. Just relying on the skydock's formation and guards cannot ensure the safety of the skydock. Therefore, all of you should immediately go and defend the city. Once the sea beasts attack the ascending heaven dock, no one will be able to survive." Everyone cried out in surprise. Moon seal sea beasts? These days, Yun Chujio had already learned a lot of common sense from Ding Air. For example, the level of the demon beasts in the Divine Enlightenment continent was different from the simple levels of the other continents. The demon beasts in the Divine Enlightenment continent, regardless of whether they were demon beasts or demon birds, would have a red mark on their forehead. The lowest level was the Star Seal Demon Beast, followed by the Moon Seal Demon Beast, and then the Sun Seal Demon Beast. It was said that there were also terrifying eye-marked demonic beasts. Each type of demonic beast had 9 grades, which corresponded to the corresponding level of cultivators. For example, the star-marked demonic beast corresponded to the divine enlightenment, the moon-marked demonic beast corresponded to the divine summoning, the sun-marked demonic beast corresponded to the divine presence, and the eye-marked demonic beast corresponded to the demigod. Most of the guards in the soaring dock were at the divine enlightenment level. As for these people who were not even at the divine enlightenment level, one could imagine how terrified they would be when they heard that there was a moon-marked sea beast. Manager Bai gave a cold shout, and everyone immediately fell silent like cicadas in winter. They did not dare to make another sound. You don't have to worry too much. As long as we can hold on until midnight tomorrow, these sea beasts will naturally retreat. Moreover, we, the Altar Master Deng of the Dock of Heaven's Climb, are at level 6 of the Divine Summoning. As long as everyone works together, we will definitely be able to get through this crisis. Alright, all of you will follow me to the Quenching Workshop's defensive area now. After Manager Bai finished speaking, he brought everyone and hurried towards the city wall. Just as they were about to reach the place, someone pointed into the distance in horror. Yun Chujio looked in the direction that person was pointing at and could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. She saw a huge sea beast lying on the Heaven's Dock's defensive barrier. That sea beast looked very similar to an octopus. There was a moon-shaped mark on its head, and its huge limbs kept slapping the defensive barrier. The protective shield trembled violently, as if it was going to break at any moment. Manager Bai was also shocked and blurted out, "Giant ice wristband." A guard at the side said in a panic, Giant ice wristband? It said that the lowest level of this thing is a Tier 7 moon mark. Everyone's head buzzed when they heard that. After all, Altar Master Deng was only at Tier 6 of the God Summoning Realm. Could they still survive? Manager Bai realized that he had lost his composure. He glared at the guard and snorted. So what if it's a level 7 moon seal? The defensive array of the heavenly dock is very strong. Before Manager Bai could finish his words, he was frightened to the point that he stopped abruptly. He was terrified to see that a crack had actually appeared on the spiritual energy shield. He immediately did not have time to say anything else and immediately led everyone to the vicinity of the city wall. A few people were surrounding an old man dressed in black, pointing at the giant ice wristband on the spirit energy shield and arguing intensely. "Dock Lord, there's no time to lose. We must send someone out to distract the giant ice wristband. Otherwise, if this continues, the spirit energy shield will definitely shatter." "That's right, Dock Lord. Once the spirit energy shield is shattered, we won't be a match for so many sea beasts. Why don't we take advantage of the fact that there aren't many sea beasts right now and send people out to buy some time? I think we should let those people who are waiting for the assessment go out. Anyway, their spiritual energy is too low, so there's not much use for them to stay in the city." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.